तो दोस्तों आप लोग का स्वागत है हमारे चैनल टेक्नोलॉजी में। आज हम लोग बात करेंगे कंसिडरेशन के बारे में। तो आज जो क्वेश्चन हम लोग डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं, द क्वेश्चन इज दैट डिफाइन द कंसिडरेशन and discuss the main element of as provided under the Indian Contract Act 1872. Explain the validity of an agreement made without consideration with the help of the statutory provision and case law. सो कंसिडरेशन की हम लोग बात करते हैं, ठीक है। चलिए शुरू करते हैं। सो कंसिडरेशन एज गिवन अंडर द सेक्शन 2D ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट 1872 defined as it when at the desire of a promisor, promisee or any other person has done or abstained from doing something, does or abstain from doing or promises or to do or to abstain from doing something. Such an act abstains or promise is called consideration for the promise. Okay. In order to understand the definition of the consideration, one must try the studies essential which are embedded in the above mentioned definition. So हम लोग बात करते हैं कि कंसिडरेशन को समझता है। तो देखिए, लेट्स फॉर एन एग्जांपल, A enter into the contract with B that he will sell his car to B for 10 lakh rupees. Here the consideration for B is the car, whereas the consideration for A is the sum of money received. Okay. So consideration यहाँ पे क्या है? A के लिए वो car consideration है and B के लिए consideration क्या है? The money he is going to be receiving in this contract. Okay. So consideration is a fundamental concept in contract law under the Indian Contract Act 1872 as well as in many other legal systems. It referred to something of value that is the exchange between the party to a contract. In essence, consideration is what each party give or promise to give to other party in exchange for what they receive. To form a legal binding contract in India, consideration is one of the essential elements that must be present. Okay, so main element of the consideration under the Indian Contract Act 1870, something of value. So consideration must involve something that has tangible, intangible value. It can be money, goods, services, promise to do something or not to do something, or any other benefits. Okay, so एक ये चीज है। Second, given or promise. So consideration can either be something that has been given or promised to be given in future. It can be in the form of an act or forbearance or promise to enact in a certain way. Okay. And third, it's the desire of the promiser. So the act or promise made by one party, the promisee, must be done at the request or desire of the other party, the promiser. In other words, it should be done to fulfill the promiser's request. Legal object. The consideration and the contract itself must have the lawful purpose. If the object of the contract is illegal or against public policy, the consideration is not valid. So जो आपका ऑब्जेक्ट है इस कंसिडरेशन का, दैट वुड बी लीगल, लॉफुल। ओके, वो अनलॉफुल कोई पर्पस नहीं होना चाहिए, ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं होना चाहिए, तो वो कंसिडरेशन आपका वैलिड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर आएगा। सो कंसिडरेशन इज लाइक हम लोगों ने बात ही करी है कि फंडामेंटल चीज क्या होती है। अब वॉइड एग्रीमेंट की बात कर लेते हैं, एग्रीमेंट विदाउट कंसिडरेशन। तो दोस्तों ये एग्रीमेंट जो कि वॉइड होगा और एग्रीमेंट विदाउट कंसिडरेशन। So now regarding the validity of an agreement made without consideration, under the Indian Contract Act 1872, Section 25 specified deal with the concept of an agreement without consideration. It is stated an agreement made without consideration is void unless it is writing and registered or is a promise to compensate for something done or is a promise to pay a debt barred by limitation law. So here's what is mean. तो समस्या इसका मतलब क्या है? So void agreement means an agreement made without consideration is generally considered void. So meaning it has no legal effect, it cannot be enforceable in the court of law. अगर कोई एग्रीमेंट है विदाउट कंसिडरेशन है, so that agreement is not going to be a contract. Okay. Exception भी है यहाँ पे written or registered agreement. If such as an agreement is in writing and registered, it can be enforceable even without consideration. Registration is necessary for validity of the agreement. A promise to compensate. So the promise to compensate, if someone has already done something for the promisor or at their request, at the promisor subsequently promises to compensate them, it is promise is enforceable even without fresh consideration. Like consideration may be passed in future and in present. So वो भी यहाँ पे है. And promise to pay a time barred debt. A promise to pay a debt that is barred by the limitation law, meaning it cannot be legally enforceable due to the passage of the time, is also enforceable with the fresh consideration. Case law and judicial decision in India have upheld this statutory provision. Courts generally follow their principle when determining the validity of the agreement without consideration. It's important to note that these exceptions are narrow, constructed, and the requirement of the registration of debt limit should be met to enforce such agreement.